Hello, and welcome to Vidhammer, the battle report resource for Warhammer Fantasy. In this video, we'll be covering a 2,500-point battle line matchup between the Tomb King and the Wood Elf armies using the 8th edition rules. Our playing surface is 1 foot wider than regulation, so the outermost 6 inches on the left and right side of the screen are considered off of the board. The terrain pieces being used are 2 forests and 2 hills in alternating corners and a marsh in the center. For spell generation, the Tomb Kings have a level 2 Lich Priest Hierophant that gets the incantations of Desiccation and Desert Wind, plus 4 more level 1 Lich Priests who all have Shem's Burning Gaze. The Wood Elves have 2 Spellsinger Casters that end up with Tree Singing, Ariel's Blessing, Call of the Hunt, and a 4th spell that doesn't get cast. The Tomb Kings win the roll for placement and elect to have the Wood Elves set up first. They start with a unit of 20 Glade Guard in their forest. The Tomb Kings place 20 Skeleton Warriors on the edge of their hill, and the Wood Elves put 16 Dryads next to their Glade Guard. The Tomb Kings put down another 20 Skeleton Warriors on the other side of their hill, and the Wood Elves respond with 8 more Dryads next to the first. The Tomb Kings place a large unit of 67 Skeleton Archers in between the Warriors, while 5 Glade Riders come down on the Wood Elves' hill. The Necrosphinx model is used as a stand-in for a Cimmerian War Sphinx for the Tomb Kings, as the Wood Elves put 20 more Glade Guard on their hill. The Tomb Kings place a Hierotitan behind their archers, and the Wood Elves follow with a Tree Man near the center. Another Necrosphinx stand-in for a Cimmerian War Sphinx comes into play, along with a unit of 15 War Dancers. The Tomb Kings place a Casket of Souls and 2 Screaming Skull Catapults with their war machines, and a Wood Elf Highborn on a Forest Dragon goes in the forest. The Tomb Kings place 2 Lich Priests in each of their Skeletal Warrior units, while High Queen Khalida, a Tomb Herald Battle Standard Bearer, and a level 2 Lich Priest Hierophant go into the large Archer unit. The Wood Elves put 2 Spellsinger Casters into their central unit of Glade Guard. Finally, the Wood Elves put a unit of Way Watchers 1 inch away from the rightmost Screaming Skull Catapult. Normally, a scouting unit must stay 12 inches away from enemy units, but Way Watchers ignore this rule. The Tomb Kings win the first turn roll and move their line forward while the upper Necrosphinx makes a break for the Way Watchers. In the Magic phase, after channeling, the Tomb Kings get 10 power dice against 5 dispel dice. The Hierotitan is within range of all of the Tomb King casters and gives an extra D3 to all of their casting attempts. The Tomb King player starts by casting Shem's Burning Gaze twice with his Lich Priests, hitting the Glade Guard for a single wound. Next he attempts to use the Bound spell from Khalida's Venom Staff, but it gets dispelled. The Hierotitan attempts its Bound spell of Shem's Burning Gaze, but the spell fails. 2 more attempts of Shem's Gaze at the Tree Man don't cause any wounds. The Casket attempts its Light of Death, but it gets dispelled, and a final attempt at Incantation of the Desert Wind fails. For shooting, the Archer unit contains High Queen Khalida, so it uses her Ballistic skill of 3, and it makes their attacks both flaming and poisoned. They hit the lower Glade Guard unit for 4 wounds. The first Screaming Catapult shoots for the Glade Riders, but the shot drifts, and the unit doesn't take any wounds. The second shoots for the Forest Dragon, but it drifts wide. On the Wood Elves' turn, they angle their upper archers toward the combat. The cavalry head around the swamp, and the rest of the line moves out of the forest and into another as it makes its way forward. All forests are normal for Wood Elves. For the Magic phase, the Wood Elves end up with 7 power dice against 4 dispel dice. They start by remembering to move the Forest Dragon. They then cast Tree Singing and move the central forest forward 4 inches, moving the Highborn, Forest Dragon, and the central Dryad unit along with it. They use their remaining dice to cast Ariel's Blessing on the lower Glade Guard unit with irresistible force, giving them regeneration. The resultant backlash puts a wound on the neighboring caster. For shooting, the Way Watchers take out the upper catapult. The Glade Guard on the hill shoot at the upper Necrosphinx for a single wound, and the lower Glade Guard shoot the Necrosphinx, but both wounds get saved. The Tomb Kings charge the War Dancers with the lower Colossus. The War Dancers flee, and the Colossus fails the charge, moving a single inch. The Upper Colossus succeeds at charging the Glade Riders. The rest of the Tomb King line makes a small move forward. In the Magic phase, the Tomb Kings get 8 power dice against 5 dispel dice. 2 Lich Priests hit the War Dancers with 2 castings of Shem's Burning Gaze, killing off 3 models. Another Lich Priest shoots the gaze at the Upper Dryads, but fails to cause any wounds. Khalida uses her Venom Staff on the lower Glade Guard, but it gets dispelled. 2 more Lich Priests cast Shems at the lower Glade Guard, with the first getting dispelled, and the second causing a single wound. The Casket of Souls casts Light of Death on the Tree Man, but doesn't cause any wounds, and the spell fails to transfer to another unit, ending the phase. In the shooting phase, the first catapult shot drifts back onto the Skeletal Archer unit, with the General failing its Lookout Sir roll, but no wounds were caused. The Skeletal Archers volley fire and get 40 shots on the larger Dryad unit for 11 wounds. The Dryads have a 5+ ward save against non-magic attacks and save 4, losing only 7 models. In close combat, the Glade Riders hit the War Sphinx for a single wound and take 3 wounds in return. The Glade Riders flee 12 inches through the Glade Guard and escape the pursuing War Sphinx, with the Glade Guard making its panic check. For the Wood Elves, the lower Dryads charge the Skeletal Archers with the upper Dryads, and the Tree Men charge the upper Skeleton Warrior unit. The Dryads fail the charge, but the Tree Man succeeds. The War Dancers fail to rally and run another 8 inches. The Glade Riders successfully rally and turn to face the Colossus. The Highborn flies the Forest Dragon to the upper flank of the Skeleton Archers. In the Magic phase, the Wood Elves get 4 power dice against 4 dispel dice. They use all of their dice to recast Ariel's Blessing on the lower Glade Guard. In the shooting phase, the upper Glade Guard shoot at the War Sphinx and hit for 3 unsaved wounds, killing it off. The Way Watchers hit the catapult but don't cause any wounds, and the lower Glade Guard put a wound on the lower War Sphinx. For combat, the Tree Man hits for 2 wounds on the Skeleton Warriors, but they don't cause any wounds in return. The Tree Man's Thunderstomp takes out 2 skeletons, and 2 more die in combat resolution. In the lower combat, the Dryads hit the Archers for 9 wounds. Khalida takes out 2 Dryads, and the BSB gets another, while the Rank and File finish off 1 more. The Tomb Kings lose the combat by 1 and lose another model. In the third turn, the Tomb Kings move up their lower units and Casket of Souls, while the higher Titan moves to avoid the dragon. For magic, the Tomb Kings end up with 11 power dice against 7 dispel dice. The first Lich Priest uses 2 dice to cast Shem's Burning Gaze on the lower Glade Guard with irresistible force, causing 1 wound, and a resultant backlash kills off 1 skeleton, puts a wound on a neighboring Lich Priest, and takes away 6 power dice. With their remaining dice, the Casket attempts to cast Light of Death, but it gets dispelled with 7 dice. In the shooting phase, the Casket of Souls shoots for the upper Glade Guard unit and causes 3 wounds. The Glade Guard fail their panic check and run through the Glade Riders, who pass their panic check. In close combat, the Tree Man hits the upper Skeleton Warriors for 3 wounds who don't do any in return, but with the rank bonus and a banner, they only lose by 1, killing off another skeleton. In the Archer combat, Khalida kills off 2 Dryads, the Dryads kill off 3 Skeleton Archers, and then the Archers kill 2 more Dryads. The Tomb Kings win the combat by 6, and the final Dryad runs 9 inches, but the Archers fail to cut it down and move 5. On the Wood Elves' turn, they charge the catapult with their Way Watchers. The Forest Dragon charges the Casket of Souls, and the Dryads charge the Archers. The War Dancers and Upper Glade Guard rally and turn around, while the Glade Riders move back toward the battle. For magic, the Wood Elves get 10 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They start by using 4 dice to cast Call of the Hunt on the Dryad unit to give them +1 attack, but the Tomb Kings roll all of their dice to dispel it. They then cast Ariel's Blessing on the Dryads to give them regeneration, and choose not to use the remaining dice. The lower Glade Guard shoot at the Cimmerian War Sphinx, but don't cause any wounds. In close combat, The Way Watchers kill off the catapult with 5 wounds and overrun 9 inches. 3 more skeleton warriors died at the Tree Man, who remains unscathed, with 2 more dying in combat resolution. The Forest Dragon attacks the Casket of Souls and kills off the Keeper, while the Highborn Rider kills off the other 2 crew. The casket explodes, hitting the Way Watchers for 1 wound, the Dragon for 1 wound, the Dryads for a single wound after saving 4 from the regen, and finally the Hierotitan takes 3 wounds. The Dragon overruns but doesn't come into contact with the Hierotitan. In the large combat, Khalida fails to wound, the BSB misses, and the Dryads hit for 1 wound on the BSB. The Tomb Kings retain their rank bonus and win the combat, with the Dryads passing their break test. In the 4th turn, the Tomb Kings charge the fleeing single Dryad with their lower skeleton warrior unit, but fail the distance and move 4 inches while the Dryad flees out of the forest. The War Sphinx charges the Glade Guard, who stand and shoot but don't cause any wounds. For normal movement, the Hierotitan moves out of the dragon's charging arc. In the magic phase, the Tomb Kings end up with 9 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They start by having 2 Lich Priests cast Shem's Burning Gaze at the single Dryad unit, but the Wood Elves use all of their dispel dice to stop both attempts. The level 2 Lich Priest casts Incantation of Desiccation on the larger Dryad unit, giving it -1 to strength and toughness. Finally, they use their last power die to hit the lone Dryad with Shem's Burning Gaze, finishing it off. A break in the recording misses 2 of the combats. The War Sphinx takes 2 wounds, but kills off all but 5 of the Glade Guard, who flee into the forest. The War Sphinx elects to restrain, to keep from taking dangerous terrain damage. In the other missed battle, the Tree Man hits the upper skeleton warriors for another 3 wounds total. Back on tape, High Queen Khalida hits the Dryad unit for 4 wounds, who are unable to cause any in return. The Dryads lose the combat and get cut down when they attempt to flee. The pursuit direction is blocked, so the archers remain in place. The Wood Elves go all out, charging the War Sphinx with their War Dancers, and the Glade Riders come to the Tree Man's aid as if he really needed it. Unfortunately, the remaining Glade Guard fail to rally and run off of the board. The upper Glade Guard move toward the battle, and the Forest Dragon turns to face the rear of the Skeleton Archer unit. For the magic phase, the Wood Elves roll 11 for Winds of Fate, but both of their casters fled off of the board with the Glade Guard. The Way Watchers fire at the Hierotitan but don't cause any wounds, and the upper Glade Guard are still too far away to shoot. In the upper close combat, the Glade Riders fail their fear check and get a weapon skill of 1. The Lich Priest slides down to stand before the cavalry and gets hit for a single wound. The Tree Man takes out 3 more rank and file models. The remaining warrior and priest fail to do any wounds and crumble in combat resolution. The War Dancers hit the War Sphinx that dies from the wounds, and the War Dancers overrun into the flank of the skeletal warriors. In the 5th turn, the Hierotitan moves behind the hill away from the dragon, and the large archer unit reforms to face the action. For magic, the Tomb Kings get 10 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They roll 6 dice to cast the bound spell from Khalida's Venom Staff, but the Wood Elves roll all of their dice and get irresistible force on the dispel. With the remaining dice, the Hierotitan uses his bound spell of Shem's Burning Gaze, which gets irresistible force. The item gets destroyed in the backlash, but due to constantly bad Tomb King rolls, it only hits for 1 wound on the Way Watchers. In the shooting phase, the archers elect to target the Glade Riders and get 7 poison wounds to take it out. In close combat, the War Dancers hit the skeletal warriors for 6 wounds, who manage to cause 2 wounds in return, but due to the War Dancers having 2 full ranks, they take away the skeleton's rank bonus, who lose 5 more in combat resolution. The skeletal warriors pass a leadership check to reform and face the War Dancers. Time constraints saw that this would be the last turn, so the Wood Elves did not elect to charge the unit of skeleton archers, and only moved the Forest Dragon for fun. In close combat, the War Dancers hit for 6 wounds, and the skeletons got 1 in return. Skeletons have a banner, so they lost the combat by 4, killing off the unit in crumbling, but a single Lich Priest survived the combat as the game ended. The final points total saw to a draw, with a points differential of only 7 points. For this matchup, both parties felt that poor dice rolls in the first 4 turns for the Tomb Kings prevented them from having a victory. Thanks for watching this battle report. Be sure to check back for more videos each week. Do us a favor and subscribe, and as always, feel free to send us a message if you have any tactics or matchups that you'd like to see. Till next time from the Vidhammer crew, keep fighting.